the greatest sports debate show on the
For the first time since 2016, we have got a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
championship rings, starring Brandon
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Let's welcome the championship ring.
I am loving this feud. Don't you dare shit on this. Don't you dare.
I'm gonna shit on the stipulation of it.
Oh my God, the stipulation is fantastic.
now.
We have an explosive episode of Championship Rings for you on this Thursday. It is NFL Conference Championship weekend. As always, I'm Brendan Lewis, the host of Brendan's World. That is Josh Ungar, Ungar to the Max, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. Ungar, since we were last on the air last Tuesday, 9 days ago, a lot has gone down in the football world, in the sports world. We're going to get to all of it tonight.
Yeah, and I will take my victory lap now because who was the one that was saying the Buffalo Bills window is closed? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was me.
Oh, wait a minute. Who's the one that didn't see Brandon Cooks clearly has the ball in his hand, goes down to the ground with one knee on the ground, and then magically they say it's an interception?
See, you make it sound like that was the deciding factor.
Well, gee, Brandon Cooks catches the ball and they do is kick a field goal. It's game over.
But what? Okay. What about the fact that right before halftime, Josh Allen fumbles it, Denver cashes that in
Guess
for a
what? They
field
had
goal?
5 turnovers in the game. They should have beat Denver. So how good is Denver really?
Well, 10 minutes after Denver secures the win, Sean Payton has to come out and do a second press conference because Bo Nix broke his ankle.
Yeah, by the way, Bo Nix probably doesn't break his ankle if the NFL clearly officiates properly. Because then in overtime, they decide, oh yeah, by the way, now we're just going to start calling pass interference on every play.
Look, was the officiating perfect? No. There were definitely some calls that made me
And they missed one. And I give this to you. In overtime, there was a hold on Buffalo in the end zone. It should have been a safety. The game should have been over. So that I give you. It was bad on both sides. But
exactly.
Despite that, and yes, Josh Allen did miss the throw to Dalton Kincaid that would have won in the game in regulation. I get it. I'm not saying that play overall definitely is the reason why Buffalo won, because they had opportunities to win the game. But
You're
now
making it sound like that Brandon Cooks interception was the reason.
Well, it did change the game. I mean, at that point, you're dead. I mean, come on. That is like the Saints against the Rams in the 2018 NFC Championship game. When that pass interference was a no call, you knew right then and there the Saints were going to lose that game because they were absolutely deflated. You cannot overcome that. And that was the end of the Sean McDermott era. Now, where I disagree with you on is
Sean Payton, you mean?
No, that was the end of the Sean McDermott era in Buffalo. That play right there.
No, but you were talking about the 2018 NFC Championship.
No, I was, but I'm saying just like what happened in New Orleans, that play will define the end of the era in Buffalo for Sean McDermott, who I said 5 years ago, for the record, should have been fired. And the ironic thing is, out of all the playoff games he lost, this one that got him fired was not his fault.
I put most of the blame on Josh Allen for this game.
Well, absolutely. Josh Allen did not play a spectacular game, but again, Buffalo still had in position to win. And where I disagree with you 100% completely on is their window is not shut. Do you want to know why their window is not shut? Because they have number 17 a quarterback. And their next head coach, I can almost guarantee you, is going to be one of two people. One is Brian Dable, who we know is the reason why Josh Allen got to be arguably the best quarterback in the National Football League today. And the other guy would be Joe Brady, who is his current offensive coordinator, who, I don't know, Josh Allen has only been playing at an MVP level the last 2 years under Joe Brady's offense. So, no, I don't think their window was closed. Do I think they had a really good shot? And do I think they should be going to New England? And do I think if they won that game on Sunday, they would be going to the Super Bowl? Yes, I believe that with all my heart and soul. But their window is not closed.
I believe it is. But
what evidence do you have? Oh, their window's closed. How? What do you mean by closed? Are they not going to make the playoffs next year?
No, they're okay. Their Super Bowl window, I believe, is closed, but not their playoff window.
Okay, I understand. There are different levels to a Super Bowl window and playoff window. I get that. But you have Josh Allen. Your Super Bowl window is not closed. Just like Green Bay's Super Bowl window with Aaron Rodgers, even though their teams every year were never Super Bowl adjacent, you would say their window was never closed because they had Aaron Rodgers, even though they only made one Super Bowl. Cincinnati's window with Joe Burrow is not closed. Why? Because they have Joe Burrow. Baltimore's window is not closed because they have Lamar Jackson. Kansas City's window, they missed the playoffs this year. Nobody thinks their window is closed because they have Patrick Mahomes.
Understand. But what I find hilarious with Buffalo, they fire Sean McDermott, but they promoted Brandon Beane.
Well, not only that, but excuse me, this press conference.
Oh my God! What? Can I just ask the question?
Go ahead.
What did Keon Coleman do?
That poor kid needs mental help. If I'm the Buffalo Bills, I get that kid mental help because, listen, Keon Coleman, what was he? He was like a top of the second round pick, I believe, maybe bottom of the first round. But because Xavier Legette was taken at 32, so he was taken, I think, the first pick in the second round. Listen, for that kid, for that pick, because T. Higgins was picked in that spot. So has he achieved expectations? No. But to put that pick on the coaching staff, really? No, who the hell is going to want Keon Coleman if you do move on from him? Nobody.
Yeah. And think about it. You had Stephon Diggs in the building, and for a number of reasons, he got sent out of town. And everybody's saying, if Josh Allen actually had legit wide receivers around him, they could be legitimate Super Bowl contenders. But instead, they've got Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman.
Dawson Knox is still their tight end. Brandon Cooks was not a bad addition at the end of the season. Believe it or not, it was ironic that his play came down to maybe decide the Buffalo Bills' fortunes of ever making it to a Super Bowl in the Josh Allen era. Again, I disagree. I think the window was closed. But I also will say this, and I said it last year for Buffalo. At some point, and it could be next year, though I don't know, which I think is part of the reason why they moved on from McDermott. They're going to self-destruct. You cannot lose like this, heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, and not go through a year like the Niners went through a couple of years ago where they had all the injuries, or a year the Lions went through this year where they went to an NFC championship game. Then they were the favorites, the number one seed. They got beat by the Commanders, but then they lost both their coordinators. It's not the same. I say this all the time in the NFL. The most important thing about the sport is having your quarterback, but that also doesn't mean progression is linear year to year.
Yeah. And I also don't think if you're a losing franchise, that losing is linear year to year. We could see like what happened with the Washington Commanders, for example, where they're one of the worst franchises, and then they come out of nowhere and make it to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, the last 2 years we've seen that. We saw it with the Commanders 2 years ago. This year we've seen it with the Patriots. I could make a real argument next year could be the Giants.
The Giants are going to be everybody's pick to go worst to first. We'll get into that later. But, if I'm a head coach candidate, the prospect of working with Josh Allen is great. I get it. But do you trust ownership with Terry Pagula do you trust that Brandon Bean is going to make the right roster moves for you?
Well, here's the other thing that nobody has mentioned yet. Also, next year, they're going to move into a new stadium. So you get to be the head coach in a new stadium, new environment. Maybe you start a new era in Buffalo. To be honest with you, I do think, and again, having a strong general manager, having an overrated roster does help. I get it. But when it comes to coaching, you can overcome bad general managership. You can overcome bad ownership. Look no further than the Cincinnati Bengals. They almost won a Super Bowl. What would that be? 4 years ago now, when they had maybe the worst owner in all sports, and Joe Burrow didn't have an offensive line. But guess what? They had Joe Burrow.
I'm not saying you're wrong in that regard. But it's like Buffalo could have gotten Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins, but they didn't want to give up a first-round
Well,
pick.
by the way, I'm not paying a first-round pick for Jalen Waddle either. I'll give up a second. He's not worth a first-round pick.
Okay, fair. But, you allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to trade with you and go get Xavier Worthy. You could have gotten Xavier Worthy and made him a great weapon for Josh Allen.
Okay, I'm going to say this. How good is Xavier Worthy? He's better than Keon Coleman, yes, but how good is Xavier Worthy?
Right. Okay, that's fair. You could, Xavier Leggett, sure, he wasn't always great.
He's not great for a receiver. He's big. He's got to learn how to catch the ball better. McMillan is certainly the better of the two in Carolina.
But you get my point, though.
Well, out of the three receivers that we mentioned, Worthy, Leggett, and Coleman. Coleman's obviously the worst out of all of them. Though the ironic thing is, guess who scored a touchdown this postseason for the Buffalo Bills in that Jacksonville game? It was Keon Coleman.
It's ironic, and we'll get to the Chicago Bears perhaps later in the show, as we're going to have to talk about the LA Rams. But it's ironic that the Bears season and the Jaguars season both came to an end on unfortunate interceptions.
Yeah, we'll get to that Chicago game. Yeah, and for Buffalo, it was in dramatic fashion. And, much as I don't like it, as much as I'm bummed, as much as you like Bo Nix, I'm bummed the fact that he's hurt. But that doesn't mean necessarily, in my opinion, that Jared Stidham can't get the job done.
Yeah.
But it was a very strange situation. And I don't know. For Buffalo, just to circle back, I do feel like that this job comes down to Brian Dable and Joe Brady. Again, I think they're going to have to interview two minority candidates because of the Rooney Rule, because it's such a great rule, even though it turns out that Brian Flores got a lawsuit because of the stupid Rooney Rule. But those are really the two candidates that are going to take this job, and I think either one of them will be successful.
Yeah. And I will say this, and to a certain extent I agree, though, again, Josh Allen had 5 turnovers, but if you want to make the argument that the better team was sent home on Sunday in Denver, I will hear you on that. I won't necessarily disagree with you. As much as I love the Denver Broncos and feel like they have rightfully earned this position that they are in to be one game away from the Super Bowl, if you want to make the case that the better team is now at home, I will not necessarily disagree with you about that.
And let me just circle back real quick on the officiating. My issue with this is the NFL all year long has been Mr. Inconsistent when it comes to officiating. One play is pass interference, when another game was not. In a similar game this year in New England, Week 15 between that Bills and Patriots game, there was a similar play involving a New England defensive back. I believe it was Marcus Jones and Khalil Shakir of the Bills. Very similar play. Shakir goes up with the ball, knee hits the ground. The defender is on top of him. Defender comes up with the ball. They ruled that a catch. So how is that play different than this play we saw in Saturday, which I do think, in a way, could decide who even makes it or wins the Super Bowl? Excuse me.
We'll get into this, but I don't think the winner of this Patriots-Broncos game is going to win the Super Bowl. I believe the winner of part 3 between the Rams and Seahawks is going to win the Super Bowl. We have that as a topic coming up in the show. But nonetheless, you know, you are 100% right. The officiating has been inconsistent all year. So I'd have to go back and see the play you're referring to before I can comment one way or the other.
And you know what my rule is when it comes to officiating. When the game is on the line in the biggest moments, and you know I say this on all sports, football, basketball, and baseball, you don't really get officiating involved besides the ball or strike call. But you never let the officials decide the game. There is holding every play. There is pass interference. But it does not significantly injure the defender where you are literally tackling him. They let these guys play. There was worse calls, I'm sure, that could have been called that weren't called. And for those two calls that happened in the biggest moments of the game, that's what I was bothered with, because it felt like they did not want the players to decide the game.
No, and you know what? Although I disagree with you about the interception catch play that you keep referencing, I do agree with you about that. Like,
again, I don't even think that Tre'Davious White, by the definition of the law, could you make an argument that was pass interference? Sure, you could. But I don't see a grab and pull when the ball gets there. I see simultaneous contact. To me, I'm letting that go.
See, that's the frustrating part about this game. Overall, I thought Bills-Broncos was a fantastic game. Like, the game itself. But all the conversation coming out of it is what is surrounding the interception that we've been talking about, the pass interference calls, and it's like, why aren't we talking about how great the actual game was?
Because those two plays are the two plays that, again, arguably, for better or worse, decided the game. Even if there was calls missed or throws missed, those two calls in that moment determined the winner.
And again, the frustration that you are expressing, totally valid. I understand it. I'm not here to disagree with you.
And by the way, the Reds, just in my opinion, if they let those two plays go, Bo Nix doesn't get hurt. So karma Denver. That's the way I look at it.
It's just frustrating to me that, like, it was a great game to watch. It was filled with momentum swings, and it felt like neither team was really in control. And for it to be marred by controversy, that's the frustrating part.
I'll say one more thing before we get to our Super Bowl picks. I've given you flack about Bo Nix before, but I'm going to give Bo Nix credit. Even though, obviously, his season's over, and I already said it sucks for him. Bo Nix, out of all 8 quarterbacks this weekend, played the best.
Yes. I feel like Bo Nix, he's not quite at the elite level of quarterback yet. But if he can come back from this ankle injury and play at a similar level to what he was doing this season, I think he will approach that territory.
Well, speaking of his team, we're going to start on the AFC side here. Patriots, Broncos. The Patriots, depending on what line you're getting, it sounds like some money may be coming in on Denver. I got it at 5.5. Sounds like it could be coming down to 4.5. I'm going to be honest. I think everybody has come out and said, oh my God, the Patriots had the easiest road for the AFC playoffs. They had to face the Chargers with no offensive line. They had to play the Texans without Nico Collins, and Dalton Schultz gets hurt early. And now they're going to play the Broncos without Bo Nix. I don't say this to offend Bo Nix, because I just praised him. But I think there's a world out there where there's not that big of a drop-off between Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham. And I think Sean Payton is going to use all this noise around the Broncos can't win without Jarrett Stidham as bulletin board material this week. I think Sean's going to scheme things up early. I think he's going to get some easy completions. I think they're going to get Jarrett Stidham going early in this game. I do not think this is a blowout. I am picking New England to win the game, but I will not be shocked if by 6:30 Sunday night, the Denver Broncos, excuse me, are representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Let me ask you a question that you should be very familiar with as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Don't the Patriots have experience going against a backup quarterback?
They do, and I've seen a lot of people compare these situations. To me, the difference is Nick Foles played, what was it, the final 2-3 games in the regular season, as well as a playoff game before the NFC Championship. Whereas with Jared Stidham, this is like his first live snaps, I believe, in 3 years.
Right. So, no, I'm not trying to compare the situations. I just felt like it was an appropriate question to ask. But
but that was also a different regime.
That part is true, yes. But think about this. When Jared Stidham was the Raiders quarterback back in 2023, he played well against the San Francisco 49ers, who would go on to play in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs that season. Josh McDaniels was I believe, the head coach for the Raiders. And when Stidham was a free agent, Sean Payton wanted him in Denver.
Oh, that's the first thing Sean Payton did, even before they had Russell Wilson. The first move he ever made when he got to Denver was sign Jared Stidham.
Exactly my point. So, everybody writing off the Broncos because, oh no, they have to go to Jared Stidham and he only has a week. I'm not writing off the Denver Broncos. And think about this. Do you know this is part 3 in their trilogy for the Broncos and Patriots?
Well, I know what part 2 was. What was part 1?
The 2013 AFC Championship.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you.
And ironically, all 3 games have been in Denver. Of course, the first 2 were Manning against Brady. Denver won both games. So do I think that's going to play a factor into this game? No, because Brady and Manning are not involved. But I do think that's a little bit of a storyline that nobody's really talking about. Granted, again, nobody from either of those teams is on the current teams. I get it. But still, the fact that Denver is up 2-0, I think plays into it.
This game comes down to one thing. It's not about the quarterbacks. It's not about the receivers. It's not about the defensive backs. It's not about the running backs. It's not the linebackers. It comes down to one matchup. It comes down to the Patriots offensive line versus the Denver defensive line and vice versa. I think New England's offensive line has lucked out. Let's be honest. I know Dan Orlowski said he apologized to C.J. Stroud when he said 31 other quarterbacks could have beat New England on Sunday. Dan, you didn't have to apologize. You're right on that statement, because if the Texans just don't turn the ball over 2 or 3 out of the 6 times they did, I do believe they win on Sunday, because New England did not play that well. Drake May made an incredible throw to Keyshawn Boutte that sealed the game, but the Texans defensive line, they got 5 sacks. I talked about it in our last show. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson against Will Campbell. It ended up being a major problem for New England that they dodged. And I think hold on one second. The Patriots this postseason have played the Chargers offensive line banged up, as we know, watch both their tackles. Texans offensive line, some of the worst tackle situations in the NFL. That's how they've been able to get their pressure. Denver with Bowles, and I forget the name of the right tackle, but they have 2 of the top 10 tackles in the NFL. It's a very different matchup. And if they don't get pressure on Jared Stidham and they let him have time, I think New England could be in some trouble. Go ahead. I apologize.
Okay. So think back to week 8. I know the Patriots went on to absolutely destroy the Cleveland Browns. I understand that. Forget the score for a second. How did Myles Garrett do in that game
The
against
same
Drake?
number that I just mentioned that the Chargers and the Texans both got in the Patriots, 5 sacks.
And
And
Myles Garrett did that single-handedly
yes.
against the Patriots. And now you have one of the best defensive units coming after Drake May.
And remember earlier in the year when I kept telling you when you were like, I believe in this Patriots team. I think they are a Super Bowl caliber team. And I think you've been more right on them than I have. Because I said, I don't know. I said, I don't even know if they can beat out Buffalo in the division because I didn't trust the offensive line long term. Because I kept saying, yeah, they're winning games. But Drake May, I remember I kept coming on this show week after week telling you, I think Drake May might end up hurt because he's getting hit almost every play he tries back to pass.
No, you're 100% right. By the way, Stephon Diggs we talked about how his absence has definitely made an impact in Buffalo. His addition in New England has made a huge difference for Drake May.
Well, we talked about it going into the Texans game. Derek Stingley would mostly take him away, which he did. Booty and Douglas stepped up. Patrick Surtain's going to be on him the whole game. So they got to figure out ways to get Booty and Douglas the ball again. I think Douglas in the slot could have a big game, actually.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I could see this being a lower scoring game, like a 16-13 type of game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like 20-13. Like, I don't know. Denver, I think that they're going to start off fast. If you want to pick a side, I would say either tie or Denver leads at the end of the first quarter. I've already bet Drake May's under for passing yards in the first quarter, which is 52.5. Because I do think New England's going to get off to a slow start. The second half is going to be, I mean, if Vrabel and them figure out some scheme that get pressure on Jarrett Stidham, there is a world out there where this does become a rout by the end of the game. You know, New England keeps hammering Denver, pounding away, body blow. And Jarrett Stidham's is bad, and Denver can't move the ball, and New England just gets their turnovers, and they take advantage of it.
I'd like to see Denver really get back to establishing the run game. That's why you brought in RJ Harvey. You've got Jaleel McLaughlin, both in the backfield. If you can really establish that run game, that's going to allow Jarrett Stidham to settle in faster, and you can open up the passing game. I know I've been saying that a lot through these playoffs, and I feel like for the most part, that's been true about whoever has won these games.
I actually disagree with you. First play, if I'm Denver, you may think this is nuts. I'm coming on an empty formation.
Really?
I am getting Jarrett Stidham throwing early so that New England believes he can throw. Because New England's going to stack the box. If they come out under center, I-form, if I'm New England, I'm putting that in the box. I'm saying, go ahead, run the ball. You got to come out and empty so you can get New England to show their hand on defense. Because when you're spread out like that, the defense is hard for them to disguise. They can't really do a lot of tricky things. And get Stidham in rhythm early, maybe even go tempo. He's been in the system for 3 years. Get his rhythm going early and get his confidence going early with short, quick pass completion. And if you go tempo early, you're going to slow down that New England pass rush.
I wonder what type of film the Patriots are watching because I don't think
I would watch the same film with Bo Nix because I think the offense is going to run exactly the same. I really do. I don't think Payton's going to change anything.
Yeah, but you have to prepare for what type of quarterback Jarrett Stidham is.
Okay, well, Jarrett Stidham is Bo Nix without the athleticism. That's what he is.
So Josh McDaniels should know Jarrett Stidham pretty well because he coached him in Vegas.
Yeah, sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, so I got to ask you something.
Okay.
We got part 3 on Sunday for the NFC Championship. Rams, Seahawks. The first 2 were absolute classics. Do you think This is
Oh,
the
this thing has a timer on it. Hold on one second, Josh. I'll fix that.
okay. But in
Good.
the meantime,
Go
do
ahead.
you remember when we were talking about the national championship back in 2023, we were saying, yeah, Georgia TCU, it says that's the national championship. Excuse me. But fans and media were saying, no, that Georgia Ohio State game was the real national championship. You remember that conversation?
Yes.
So I'm kind of twisting that here. Do you feel like Rams Seahawks is the real Super Bowl?
Okay, so now we're gonna get into this Rams Seahawks game. Here's my answer to that. Depends on who wins this game and depends on who wins the AFC game. Because if Denver makes it out, Lord help us that we would have to watch Jared Stidham in a Super Bowl. Then yes, the winner of Rams Seahawks will win the Super Bowl. If New England makes it and Seattle wins the game, I think New England has a shot to beat Seattle. I do not think they would have a shot to beat Matthew Stafford and the Rams.
Okay, because go back to the 2006 AFC Championship, where you had Patriots Colts. The winner was going to play the Chicago Bears in Super Bowl 41, but you're like, well, whoever wins this game is going to end up winning the Super Bowl because you just felt like that about the Patriots and Colts, rightfully so, because it was Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. There's another connection. But you just felt like those two teams were above the rest. It feels, I know it's Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford. I'm not comparing either of them to Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Please don't please don't take it that way.
No, I understand what you're saying. These two teams have been the two best teams in football all season long, and it does feel like that. I get it. I think New England does match up a little bit with Seattle personnel-wise, and I think that they would have the quarterback advantage in that game, which is why I give New England a chance. I'm going to say this right now. A lot of people are disagreeing with me. A lot of people like Seattle in this spot. I actually love the Rams. I think the Rams are better than Seattle. I actually think they proved they're better than Seattle in that game Thursday night, week 16. They were up 16 with 8 minutes to go. And if Raheem Shaheed does not bring that punt return back and create all sorts of hell, which includes the backwards 2-point conversion play, the Rams win the game. And I know a lot of people have said, oh, well, the Rams have barely beat the Panthers and they barely beat the Bears. I've never seen a team like the Rams, who are a warm weather dome team, go to a frigid place like Chicago, Illinois last Sunday night and have 0 dropped passes and 0 fumbles lost, or, obviously there was the one play Devontae Adams fumble, but he was down, and 0 penalties. That is coaching. And I don't care what you guys say about Sam Darnold. I still don't trust him in this spot. If Sam Darnold goes out and throws for 400 yards and he throws all over this Rams defense and proves me wrong, I'll come on here next Tuesday and say, Mr. Josh Ungar, I was wrong about Sam Darnold. Thank you very much. I think this game is going to be close. I think there's going to be points scored. I think Darnold's going to play well. But if you're telling me between who has the ball last, who do I trust? I think Matthew Stafford engineers another game-winning drive. I think the Rams win the game. I think they know they can go into Seattle and win, and I think they're starting to feel it the way they felt it when they went to Tampa Bay in the divisional round the year they won the Super Bowl, put off that incredible comeback after Tom Brady led the Buccaneers down the field, and the Rams had led almost the entire game. The Rams went on to win the Super Bowl. I do feel like history may be repeating itself.
As much as I strongly dislike the LA Rams because of their owner, Stan Kroenke, screwing over the city of St. Louis, that's something I will never, loosen my grudge on. But I will tell you this. I love Matt Stafford. Puka, as we quickly become one of my favorite wide receivers. You know how I feel about Aaron Donald when he was there. Sean McVay has completely proven me wrong. I was like, okay, you're a good head coach. You kind of looked your way into winning a Super Bowl. No, he has completely turned my
I'll agree with that.
opinion about him around. If he is able to engineer the Rams to a second Super Bowl championship in 5 years, you know what? I will give Sean McVay his full credit. Think about this, though. You brought up Sam Darnold. He could he could be the first quarterback from that 2018 quarterback draft class that we all said was going to be amazing. You know, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar, Darnold. We thought Josh Rosen was going to be something at the time.
Well, don't say we, because I didn't. I thought he was going to be a massive bust from the start. Don't include me in that.
I was just saying we as a general statement. I'm not specifically.
Okay.
I'm not specifically including you, but anyway, Sam Darnold could be the first quarterback from that group to reach a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it feels wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you know, for him to go from what you remember that Monday night game against the Patriots where he's like, I was seeing ghosts, to be in this position.
Well,
think about the narrative and how that would change for him.
This is why I know you guys all want to give credit to JSN being the number one receiver and Mike McDonald's is a great head coach. Look what he's done with his defense. And Sam Darnold's playing so well. And Raheem G's been a great addition.
Rashid Shaheed.
You know what the best addition of the entire Seahawks whole offseason was? Quinn Kubiak as offensive coordinator. That's what changed the most about this team. It wasn't Darnold because Geno Smith and Darnold are very similar quarterbacks. They completely changed the scheme. And Quinn Kubiak, in my mind, should be getting more head coaching opportunities because he, along with Kevin O'Connell and Kyle Shanahan, all run that similar system, which clearly at this point Sam Darnold is very comfortable with. And I did not understand why he would want to go to Seattle, but I underestimated the Quinn Kubiak impact. And that, to me, is the biggest reason why Seattle was playing this Sunday.
What type of impact do you think Zach Charbonnet not being there is going to have on this game for Seattle?
I think it's going to be a moderate impact. I don't think it's something little, but I don't think it's big for the fact they can't win the game without him. But they're going to have to rely on Kenneth Walker more, and Walker's going to have to be able to hit holes more consistently than he has.
The other storyline that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about is the fact that you have Cooper Kupp, who won a Super Bowl with the LA Rams, had that amazing season, and guess what? They said no. The Rams moved on from him, and now he's playing great in Seattle.
Well, I wouldn't say great. He's at a down year. He's at his moments, but he's not the same receiver he was with the Rams. Why they moved off him, and I would argue rightfully so because Davante Adams has been more impactful than Cooper Kupp was the last few seasons. Plus, I would argue this too, Josh. It wasn't necessarily Cooper Kupp. It was the Cooper Kupp Puka Nacua scheme fit. They both are similar players, slot receivers, blockers. They're not the down the field threat that is Davante Adams, which is what made the Rams so deadly. Is now you have a receiver that you can play at the edge position in Davante Adams, and you can lead Puka more in that slot position, which is what they've done.
Well, I'm not saying the Rams made the wrong decision necessarily by moving on from Cooper Kupp. By the way, Ernest Jones has made a huge difference for Seattle defensively, and he's a former Ram.
Yep.
So you have all of these connections. But just to finish my Cooper Kupp point, sure, he hasn't been great statistically for Seattle this season. I agree with you. But I think he's had a big influence on JSN, just in terms of the receiver JSN has become this season. I think you have to give Cooper Kupp credit for why we're talking about JSN as a great wide receiver. The Seahawks #1.
Well, again, the funny thing is, right, he only had 2 catches last week because they didn't really need him because that game was over by the opening kickoff.
No, yeah. And when I'm talking about Cooper Kupp's impact, I'm talking about off the field stuff.
No, I know, but I was talking more about JSN. They didn't really need him last week. Now
No.
it's going to be a different game.
No, I agree. And also Rashid Shaheed. I told you that was one of the biggest moves of the trade deadline. And it has panned out that way. I don't think Seattle would have won that Week 16 game against the Rams.
Which is my point, that the Rams are just better. I mean, I believe that in my heart. The Rams are better than Seattle.
Which, did Seattle kind of luck their way into that Week 16 win to a certain extent? Yes.
I'm not saying that it's going to be a blowout like this, but it reminds me of last year's NFC Championship game where the Commanders walked into that win Week 16 against the Eagles at home, and then my team went out and obliterated them in the NFC Championship game.
No, I understand that, but these first 2 games, they've been so evenly matched, and it's come down to 1 or 2 plays.
Well, the first game, the Rams dominated them, and they didn't have to do anything on offense, and then Seattle had a big fourth quarter.
I just feel like these 2 teams have clearly separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Again, that's why I put up this question, because to circle back to my original point, we were all like, okay, Georgia's playing TCU in the national championship, whatever. Most fans and media members alike were saying, no, that Georgia-Ohio State game was the actual national championship.
Okay, so I have Patriots-Rams in the Super Bowl. What is your Super Bowl matchup?
I have Patriots-Seahawks. And that leads me to this next one, which it may have a timer on it. Hopefully it doesn't. But how would you feel about Super Bowl 60 being a rematch? Because Patriots-Rams, that would be the 3rd time we've seen it, with the Patriots winning the first 2. If we get Seahawks-Patriots, that would be part 2. Of course, we know how the first one ended. And if we get Seahawks-Broncos, that would also be a rematch. The only way we can get a fresh matchup that we have not seen is if it is Broncos-Rams.
Okay, I'm going to answer this way. The best Super Bowl matchup out of all 4 possibilities is clearly far and away, in my opinion, Patriots-Rams. The 2 Super Bowl MVP, or the 2 MVP candidates, the quarterback Drake May and Matthew Stafford. New England, I hate to say it, Denver, I'm sorry, no disrespect. New England is clearly the best team left in the AFC, even if Denver does win. Somewhere you felt that Buffalo was better than Denver, but Denver won. I feel like New England's better than Denver. Denver may win. If it is Denver, Seattle, my hype level for the Super Bowl will be at about a -5. I do not want to watch Sam Darnold versus Jarrett Stidham. I just don't. Okay? I don't care how many people love Sam Darnold. I still don't think Sam Darnold's elite. I will never think Sam Darnold's elite. I will always think.
By the way, I've never said once Sam Darnold is elite.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying people that are going to put Sam Darnold in as this great quarterback that turned his career around. No, he's done good. He's played well. He's not special. He's not in the tier of Allen. He's not in the tier of Lamar. He's not in the tier of Herbert. He's not in the tier of Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Mahomes, etc. I don't even think he's in Drake May or Matthew Stafford's class. So you know how I feel about football. I think ultimately football is a quarterback's game, and I really don't want to watch Seattle and Denver. Out of all of the rematches, to be honest with you, I really don't care for any of them because I thought this was supposed to be the year where it's a different year, right? It's a defensive year in the NFL. We have different teams that we didn't expect, like the Broncos and the Patriots being in it. But we had the Texans. We had the Jags. We had the Bears. We had the Bills trying to get there. Like, I wanted a fresh, after we dealt with the Chiefs for 5 out of 6 years, And, we've had Chiefs Eagles or Chiefs Niners 4 years in a row, basically. I wanted something fresh. And a Super Bowl rematch, especially one that I've seen, even if it's different teams 7, 8 years ago, still doesn't feel fresh to me. So I don't know. At this point, I'm like, who cares? I'll watch the Super Bowl, but none of them really, really excite me.
Okay. Um, well, if we do get Seahawks Broncos, that would be a rematch 13 years in the making. So it's not like we just saw it.
But it does feel like it because I remember that game vividly because of how much of a blowout it was.
No, I understand. And if we do get Patriots Rams, that's actually the game I want the least because it was so boring last time. 13-3. You just kept sitting there waiting for something to happen.
That's how I feel about Broncos Seahawks.
And rightfully so. By the way, you were mentioning how like you wouldn't put Sam Darnold in a tier with Matt Stafford or Drake May. You wouldn't put Sam Darnold in a tier with Joe Burrow or Lamar or Patrick Mahomes. If Bo Nix had been able to stay healthy and he went on to win a Super Bowl, I actually I wouldn't have put Bo Nix in a tier with Josh Allen, Lamar, and Joe Burrow yet. I would have put him on the same tier as like a Matt Stafford.
I mean, it's fair. The way I look at it is weirdly and oddly, after we all hated the Patriots dynasty, most of America outside of Colorado was rooting for them this weekend.
Yes. By the way, I think I read this stat. Did you know this is the 15th straight year where the AFC Championship is going to include either the Patriots or the Chiefs?
I mean, that makes sense. Brady and Mahomes. That's why I keep saying it's a quarterback-driven league.
Yeah, and we were all like, oh, thank God, the Chiefs dynasty is over. And the Patriots are like, well, where did that bring you?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the last one I think that didn't include either of those would have been 2010, the Mark Sanchez Jets against Ben Roethlisberger Steelers.
I think you're right. And the only one prior to that I can think of is 2000.
The previous year, 2009, was Sanchez against Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and 2008, Flacco against Roethlisberger.
The AFC has, I believe, included one of Brady, Mahomes, Roethlisberger, or Manning every year, except for this year, since 2001.
Yeah, like it's the AFC. It feels like the NFC has been way more wide open, honestly.
Well, now I think it's starting to become, because of all these young quarterbacks that have entered the NFC, I think the NFC at the top has become the better conference.
Oh, I would agree with you. So, but in terms of the rematches, I guess the most interesting one would be Patriots-Rams, to see if the Rams can finally get on the board. And like you said, it's the two MVP candidates. I think Matt Stafford would have more on the line in that matchup.
Oh, 100%.
Yes, because, most people have Matt Stafford as the front runner for the MVP. If he goes on to win it, I'm not going to argue and say, no, that's the wrong decision. Drake May should have won it. No. Personally, if I had a vote, I would vote for Drake May, but that's nothing against Matt Stafford.
Well, here's the problem about the Patriots. If they don't win the Super Bowl, you know what people are going to say? They have the easiest path to a Super Bowl in the history of the NFL.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like if the Patriots win a Super Bowl, they're going to compare it to what the Boston Celtics had to do in 2024? When they
they won. But no, when you win a Super Bowl, nobody takes anything away from you. When you don't win a Super Bowl, that's when people start questioning your resume.
Okay, but I'm saying on the Celtics' way to winning a championship, they were like, Okay, but did you really play anyone? Like,
Yeah, but nobody says that about the Super Bowl because you have to be a good team to make the Super Bowl. We've seen we've seen not great seeds in the NBA make the finals before. We've seen the '04 Pistons. Nobody gave them a shot against the Lakers, and they won the title.
yeah,
The
we,
Super Bowl generally, you need to be a good team to make it there.
yeah, but it's like we've seen matchups in the Super Bowl where you're like, how did that team reach the Super Bowl? Like the two good examples. Granted, they're the same team, but still, the '07 Giants and the 2011 Giants. I don't recall anybody saying, "Oh, the Giants can make a Super Bowl run."
But guess what? They won both those games, and nobody takes it away from them. If they didn't, then they would talk about those runs. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to the Patriots.
I'm not trying to discredit what the Giants did by making it two by making
Well,
those
you
runs.
just kind of did.
Okay, fair. Do you do you understand the premise of what I'm trying to get at? That
The premise of what I'm telling you is they have to win the Super Bowl.
yes, and the Patriots, there's always going to be some type of controversy surrounding them. Although I haven't heard any type of cheating scandal with them.
Well,
But
gee, I don't know. It sounds like Stephon Diggs and Christian Barmore should be in jail to me.
okay, but I'm talking about like when we had Spygate going on or Deflategate.
Well, no,
Like,
because Mike Vrabel's smarter than Bill Belichick.
fair. All right.
All right. Shall we get to the NFL coaching carousel?
Yes. Because
Let's do it because we have news. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the breaking news first, or where did you want to go? I'll let you take it.
Well, we do have breaking news. Right before we got on, it was reported by senior NFL insider Adam Schefter that the Baltimore Ravens are hiring LA Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter to be their next head coach. So he gets to come in and coach the two-time MVP Lamar Jackson. Of course, Jesse Minter is very familiar with the Ravens organization. So to me, this hire is really not a surprise at all. And we'll see if he's able to reestablish the defensive identity in Baltimore. You go and look at his stats while he was with the Chargers defensively this season. I feel like for that group, they completely overachieved. It seemed like they were top 10 in most categories. And you're like, you're doing that with who? Like, it didn't feel like there was anybody outside of Derwin James really on that Chargers defensive unit that really stood out.
I mean, an older Khalil Mack as a pass rusher, that's about it, but I agree with you.
So, and now you're coming to Baltimore where you got like Marlon Humphrey, Kyle
Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you. So you have pieces to reestablish that identity.
And DK on the defensive line.
Yes, exactly.
Roquan Smith at linebacker. So I agree with you, and I think it makes sense. He coached under Harbaugh, under both Harbaughs, because he's with Jim at Michigan and with the Chargers. I think that this was their way of thinking, hey, we want Mike McDonald out the door 2 years ago. I want him to go be a head coach. Let's try to repeat what Mike McDonald did, and let's kind of take the Harbaugh tree and modernize it.
Yeah, but you better get the right offensive coordinator.
Well, I keep hearing that reportedly Cliff Kingsbury could be the OC there, which I think would be a great fit for them.
He didn't do great as the head coach in Arizona, though.
No, but he's done great as an OC. We know his track record with what he's done with Jaden Daniels. We know what he did with Kyler Murray. He did get Kyler Murray to the playoffs in Arizona. Nobody else did that.
That part is true. You know what's funny is, like, we haven't heard anything in terms of who the Arizona Cardinals are interviewing. We haven't heard.
I've heard Vance Joseph, Sean McDermott, maybe Mike McCarthy.
And, you told me the Raiders were set to hire Brian Flores, but he just signed a contract extension in Minnesota.
Well, he did, but he's also a front runner for the Steelers job, which is weird. So I don't know what Vegas is doing, to be honest with you.
No. But the real situation that's interesting is Cleveland, because it seems like everybody's saying, nope, no thank you, which, as a Browns fan, I completely understand because of our damn owner.
Well, it's not that you have a general manager that can't draft.
And Andrew Berry has not been great as a general manager. I'll give you that. You put those two outside of this recent draft class. I got to give him credit for that. Outside of Dylan Gabriel, because he was a total flop.
And Shedeur Sanders, maybe. And that's the thing, Josh. It doesn't matter if all those other picks are great. If you don't get the quarterback right, it doesn't matter. And that's what the Brown situation is. Buffalo may have bad general managership. They may have bad ownership. I talked about this at the start of the show. They have Josh Allen. They're going to get a good coach. The Browns may not have a quarterback. So they are looking for a young, offensive, innovative mind if they can ensure themselves that they can keep Jim Schwartz. Otherwise, they're just going to promote him.
Yeah. I don't even know if the Browns have honored the Rooney Rule yet or not.
My dream, by the way, I did a huge rant on X/Twitter about the Rooney Rule. If you want to look at it, it has about 31,000 views right now and over probably 300 likes. But if I was running the Browns, if it was up to me, I think people would shit on this hire, and that hire being Grant Uditsky, the Jaguars' young offensive coordinator. But he reminds me a lot of Sean McVay. And I think him, compared with Jim Schwartz, who could be like what Wade Phillips was to Sean McVay early in his career in Los Angeles, not a lot of people are going to like it because they want an experienced head coach. They don't want a young offensive mind. I actually think it'd be a great hire.
Honestly, the guy I really wanted was Robert Saleh, but he's now with the Tennessee Titans, which that's going to be an interesting pairing, him and Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, if Brian Dable does not become his offensive coordinator, I'm very interested to see who becomes the offensive coordinator because that'll ultimately decide how well he does, in my opinion, in Tennessee. It's a little bit of a weird fit. That was a weird one to me.
I do think he could help the Titans defense, especially when you got Jeffrey Simmons. But you don't really have any.
Who? I mean, who else?
Well, that's my point. You don't really have anybody else, but maybe he can go in there and improve the defense and make them household names. But I'll tell you what, the other one that was interesting was Miami, because they go out, they hire a general manager from Green Bay, and then they turn around and hire Jeff Hafley. Are they going to become Green Bay South?
Maybe. I'm surprised you didn't mention Atlanta with Stefanski because now we know there's some bad blood going on there with him and Baker Mayfield.
Oh, I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. I'm so glad you brought this up. When I saw that, I'm like, yes, this is what I want. They have to see each other twice a season. As much as I love Kevin Stefanski and didn't want him fired, I hope when Baker Mayfield goes against the Falcons for the first time, he goes for 300 plus yards, throws for 2 or 3 touchdowns, and he shoves it right in Stefanski's face.
Yeah, I hope the NFL makes one of their games a primetime game, shove it right in the Browns' face. It's interesting. Stefanski's bringing along Bill Callahan, offensive line coach. He's bringing along Tommy Rees as his offensive coordinator, which tells you he believes it was not his fault at all in Cleveland, and we're about to figure out who's going to be right on that side of it because I'm very interested in what they do at the quarterback position. And Atlanta's former offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, is now going to be down in Tampa with Baker Mayfield. And I actually think that's a really good fit down there because he runs a very similar scheme to what William Cohen and Dave Canales ran when Baker had success.
Yeah. So last season, before the schedule came out, I predicted that the Cleveland Browns would open the season on the road at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. I ended up being dead ass wrong about that, as instead that game ended up happening in week 8, and instead we hosted the Cincinnati Bengals to open the season. So prior to this Atlanta news with Kevin Stefanski, my prediction was, we're going to host the Indianapolis Colts in week 1. Well, now that Stefanski is in Atlanta, I think the NFL schedule makers are going to play on that, and I am now changing my schedule prediction. In week 1, I'm going to say either in the 4 o'clock window or in prime time, it will be the Atlanta Falcons at Cleveland Browns. Week 1, Stefanski makes his return to Cleveland.
I don't think they're going to give the Browns a primetime game because they don't know how good Shedeur Sanders is. At least a standalone early in the game, unless it's a Thursday night, which is why I think like week 2. Yeah, I could see Falcons Browns being a Thursday night game.
Okay, so you agree with me that like that game's going to be early in the season, you know?
To be honest with you, this is what I would do if I was the schedule makers. Week 1, I'm putting the Browns at Tampa, and week 2, I'm having the Falcons come to Cleveland.
You know, it's ironic you say that, because remember, the last time we played the NFC South, the Browns opened the season at Carolina.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was Baker Mayfield's game at Carolina. That was the Browns game against Baker, and that was the first time the Browns have won in week 1 since like 2004.
Yes. Excuse me. But, you know, it's interesting. Again, we haven't really heard anything from the Arizona Cardinals. We haven't heard anything from the Raiders. Some of these other teams, like you are primarily hearing about what's going on in Buffalo, what's going on in Pittsburgh. We were hearing a lot about what's going on in Baltimore. You know,
you're hearing more about what's going on in Philly at offensive coordinator than you are about the Cardinals or Raiders head coaching jobs.
Yeah. And by the way, what did you think of Mike McDaniel choosing to be the Chargers offensive coordinator?
I think it's a good fit for him. I like it better. I did not want him being the OC in Philly. I actually did not think it'd be a good fit with Jalen Hurts because McDaniel's a lot of under center, which Jalen is obviously not as comfortable with. I think him and Harbaugh are going to work really well together, and I think that this could lead into a better head coaching opportunity down the line. So I do think it's a really good fit.
He thinks the Chargers are going to be special.
I mean, if they get their tackles back, I'm telling you right now, a little bit of an off-season February take. Chargers to the Super Bowl is out there.
They have to improve their skill position players for me also. Like, I like Quentin Johnston, but who else? I like Omari and Hampton.
Len McConkey. I like Gaskin. He came out at the end of the year. Like, they maybe need to have one more piece, but I think they're pretty there.
I don't fully trust their skill position group yet. I just don't.
Well, we know this team doesn't need a head coach because they just flew through college football. The Indiana Hoosiers. Now, the national championship game was a better game than I thought. I thought Miami should have let Carson back for a little more in the first half than they did. But they obviously turned it around in the second half. The Fernando Mendoza died on 4th and 5 or whatever it was, will be one of the most iconic plays in the history of the Indiana program. Indiana was the best team in college football from start to finish. Despite what I was saying about Ohio State earlier in the season, Indiana proved me wrong. I don't think of them like LSU, where they were just this dominating presence that beat up on everybody like 50-0. I just think of this team as one of the most efficient and well-coached teams in the history of college football.
Yeah. You know, there were talks that maybe Kirk Cignetti, if Mendoza does end up getting drafted number 1 overall by the Raiders, which I fully expect him to, maybe Cignetti should become the Raiders head coach.
Yeah, I doubt it. No, he's staying in college, and now he gets to coach Fernando's brother next year.
I thought I read Fernando's brother transferred.
Did he? Because I didn't hear about that. If he did, you may be right.
I think I read Fernando's brother transferred.
Oh, you're right. He does enter the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction on that.
Yeah, I believe he went to Georgia Tech. Yeah. He is going to Georgia Tech.
Yeah. But anyway,
But
Indiana was just a very impressive team. Go on.
Yeah. By the way, not only is this the third straight national championship for the Big Ten, but it continues a recent trend of teams who wear red winning national championships. The last 5 teams who did not wear red to win a national championship: 2019 LSU, 2018 Clemson. You have, I think it was 2010 Auburn. I want to say, Florida's in there, and there was one other, and I don't remember who it was.
You're talking about the team that wore red in the game lost?
No, just teams who won a national championship but didn't have red as a primary color.
Well, that Michigan a couple years ago.
Michigan, that's the other one. Michigan, LSU, Auburn, Florida, and now Clemson. There you go.
The biggest question for me is, was this the last year of the 12-team playoff? Which I think the deadline for expansion is tomorrow, if I'm correct.
Well, it sounds like the SEC wants 16 and the Big Ten wants 24.
Well, can I tell you the reason why the Big Ten wants 24? Because if you get past 16, ESPN has to give up the control that they can no longer have exclusive rights. Fox would have to get a game. CBS would have to get a game. NBC would have to get games. And we know the Big Ten has contracts with all 3 of those networks. That's why they want the expansion.
Yeah. And I read that and I saw that the national championship next year is going to be like January 25th.
Which is so wrong. And this is the thing, and it's nothing against Indiana because it happened the same thing to Ohio State. Why do you think, we're an hour and 7 minutes into our show tonight and we have barely talked about college football? Yeah, Indiana won the national championship. Would be the conference championship games are this weekend, and that's all anybody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
The national championship game should be, in my opinion, the Rose Bowl, January 1st in Pasadena. That, to me, is the national championship.
Yeah, great. The national championship next year is in Arizona. Let me know when I should care. At least, when you have the national championships for men's college basketball and women's national college basketball, people actually care about those.
Yes, and it's within a tournament. It's 3 weeks, and that's the thing, right? Is I think college football, as great as this expansion has been, and ratings are through the roof because of it, pretty soon, I would imagine that they are going to brand this into December Madness.
Yeah. And that if they do that, I could see them expanding the bracket ridiculously large, which you're going to run. If you do that, you're going to run into what happened with Tulane and James Madison, who obviously did not belong in the playoffs. And, I would have preferred to see Texas, Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, teams who actually belonged. Now, a lot of the controversy was whether Miami deserved to be there or not. I think they rightfully proved
Clearly, they show they did.
Yeah, rightfully they did. But even honestly, when that game was 10-0 at halftime, you're like, okay, and
yeah, it was a slow-moving game. It felt like it's nails days. It did pick up in the second half, but it was not that exciting of a game. It was what we expected, a physical offensive line, defensive line game.
Yeah. It wasn't. I don't feel like there was that one iconic play. If you want to say Fernando Mendoza diving into the end zone, sure, that'll go down in Indiana lore, but I don't think in 5 or 6 years you and I are if we're still doing the show, are going to say, hey, do you remember Fernando Mendoza diving into the end zone against
It was
Miami?
it was certainly not Caleb Williams backing up in front of the ball 52 yards for a 13-yard pass.
Yes.
So, all right, well, to the NBA we go because the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by a free throw merchant, are back at it again, dominating the NBA.
Yeah, they absolutely blew out the Cleveland Cavaliers by 32 on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I believe they beat the Bucks last night in dominating fashion. They are the top team in the NBA again, and it's just like, are we on? You were saying the same thing about the Denver Nuggets, but I feel like the question has to be asked now. Are we on the verge of a Thunder dynasty?
I mean, they remind me a little bit of the Spurs dynasty where it's like they're boring. They're from Oklahoma City. They're not from this righteous city like a Miami or even, in LA or Boston, where it's like they're just from Oklahoma City. They work, they grind. Sam Presti is basically the Howie Roseman of the NBA. Mark Dagnall may be the next Sirianni in the NBA, just with less aggressive and really smart. And they're just well built. They can shoot the three. They can play defense. They're just a really good team. But I do think that if the Spurs stay healthy, and I'm going to say potentially even Denver, and I think Houston's out there. I don't buy the Lakers as real contenders. I think the West is tougher than the East, and I think they're going to have a harder time this year getting through the West. It doesn't mean that they can't, but I'm not going to crown them just yet.
By the way, the Thunder blew out the Bucks last night, 122 to 102. So,
yeah, and Giannis is just booing fans now all of a sudden for a bad Milwaukee team, and the NBA is still, I think, relying too much on its past stars. We still want to talk about Giannis. We still want to talk about LeBron. We still want to talk about Steph, where it's like SGA, Jokic, Wemby, Anthony Edwards, and I'll even put Jason Tatum in there for the sake of this conversation. Tyrese Halliburton. These guys are the future of the NBA, and the NBA just refuses, in my opinion, to embrace them.
Yeah, like we're only at January 22nd, and Oklahoma City is already 37-8. They don't even.
If they go, let's see, so 37, so 47, 56, that's 40. They would have to win 47 more games in a row, and they could beat the Warriors record.
Which I doubt is going to happen. Somebody's going to beat them, but, the next.
Last year they went 68-14. It feels like they're probably going to go 68-14 again.
Yeah, the next closest team to them in the overall league standings are the Detroit Pistons at 32-10.
Which is remarkable in itself. And then I think there's a gap between the third. Isn't it like it's 6 games back?
Yeah, San Antonio's third. They're 6.5 back. Denver is fourth. They're 7.5 back. There's 3 Western Conference teams following Detroit. You don't get to the second Eastern Conference team, the Boston Celtics, until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm talking about in terms of overall league standings.
Wow.
Yeah. And Boston, they're 9 games back of Oklahoma City.
Which is just insane to think about. Hey, Josh, I'm going to give you a little bit of a quiz real quick. I want you already saw this stat. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen the league jersey sales for the NBA yet this season?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, to talk about, our belief that the NBA,
You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm okay. We're going to talk about the NBA's belief that, they're not really marketing their current stars. I want you to take a wild guess at where SGA currently ranks on jersey sales just for this season.
He's probably not even top 5.
You're right on that.
Oh, wow.
Where do you think he is? I have the top 15 here, by the way.
I'll say he's 7th.
You are correct. He
Oh
is
wow.
7.
I just took a wild guess on that.
Do you want to guess who number 1 is?
LeBron?
No.
Steph?
Steph is correct. Steph is number 1. Where do you think LeBron is?
He's probably top 3.
You're wrong.
Well, okay.
But he's above SGA.
Okay, so LeBron's probably top 5.
Yeah, he is. He's 5th.
Okay. I would think Wemby's in there.
Wemby is 1 spot ahead of LeBron at 4.
Okay. Luka is probably in there.
Luka's 2.
Okay. Jokic is probably in there.
He's in the top 10. He's not in the top 5.
Okay. Durant is probably top 5.
No. Durant is all the way down at 12.
Wow. I'm trying to think. It can't be Jaylen Brown.
No. He's not even in the top 15.
I can't imagine Jason Tatum is.
Tatum's in the top 10.
Oh, wow. As much as I love Jason Tatum, that's actually surprising. Oh, yeah. Ant has got to be in there.
He's on the list, but he's not in the top 5.
Ant is in top 5?
No, Ant is 6. He's right behind LeBron, but he's ahead of SGA. How do you feel about that?
That's crazy. Okay, so I got Steph, Jokic. Is Giannis in there?
Giannis is actually below Durant. Giannis is at 13.
Oh, wow. I'm trying to think. Who else could be in there? Devin Booker?
Not even close. Nope.
Okay, I didn't think so. Boy.
Do you want to hit of what conference they're in?
Sure.
East.
Jalen Brunson.
Yep. Jalen Brunson's 3rd.
Where's Cade Cunningham?
Cade Cunningham, he is number 14.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. That, you got an upstart team like Detroit, and Cade Cunningham's only number 14.
And by the way, right behind him at number 15 is our very own Donovan Mitchell.
How did you feel about Donovan Mitchell not being an all-star starter?
The Cavs stink, so I don't care.
Fair enough.
But by the way, I will say this out loud for everybody on Championship Rings to hear. We can talk about the All-Star game. I will watch highlights. I am not watching All-Star Weekend this year. I have made a decision.
Fair. Hey, speaking of, well, we know it's going to be a USA versus World format, but the NBA Finals are changing.
Yeah, they are. And I think for the better. And I think the NBA needs to take advantage of this, which the NBA historically has not done a good job, in my opinion, of taking advantage of situations and making their product better. The COVID bubble, mainly, they could have shortened the season. They could have started the season later. They did not do that. I think the NBA Finals, with there being 2 days off in between every game except for games 3 and 4, it's ridiculous. It stretches out the series way too much. I do like the fact that they are having more Friday and Saturday games, but I don't know. I get a feeling that it's just a one-off for the NBA.
Yeah, I think it's because the World Cup is happening in the U.S. in 2026. Personally, and maybe this is just because the Cavs won Game 7 on a Sunday, I love that Game 7 of the NBA Finals was on a Sunday night. It felt like a great way to, depending on how you look at it, either end the week or start the week, because it gave you a lot to talk about, either going into school or not going into school, because Game 7's over June, so I apologize. I mean, at summer camp or, going into work, whatever. So I personally like Game 7 of the Finals being on a Sunday. So I don't love it as much as you do, but I'm not against it.
I mean, I just think that they need to go every other day, like they do for the conference finals. I don't understand how you can have 3 days off for the first round. Then you go every other day for the conference finals, and then you go 2 days off for the finals. Makes no sense.
Granted, like you need a travel day, especially if you're having to go from like California across the country.
Okay, that's great. That's why you get a day off. That's your travel day. Play the next night.
What about a practice day, though?
They don't practice anymore in the NBA.
Right.
They don't. I mean, practice is shoot around.
But how do you prepare a game plan? Like, you got to make adjustments from game 1 to game 2.
You can do it on the plane. I mean, but in a series, right? These teams know each other so well. You're going to make a small adjustment here or there. You're not changing your entire strategy.
Well, depending on how a game goes, you might decide you want to completely change your game plan.
No, you're not going to completely change your game plan of who you are from one game to the next in a finals game. I mean, when we talk about these finals games, right, it's either, Celtics Mavericks was really a no contest. You get tell from Jump Street the Celtics were the better team. Pacers Thunder was a different story. Indiana did not make massive adjustments in that series.
See, it felt like Indiana actually did make some massive adjustments with whether it was the way they were playing Siakam and Halliburton throughout that series.
But again, it's okay. You get up tighter. It doesn't take a day to practice that. Get up tighter on his ass. Well, I mean, that's the adjustment.
But we also saw like OKC was making lineup changes.
Okay, again, I'm sitting there after the game. Oh, we need to make a change. You're not going to practice that at this point.
I mean, it feels like you should.
But again, you talk to every NBA coach out there during the season, unless you get multiple days off, these teams don't practice because they don't have time because they're playing every other game.
Yeah, like the Cavs were in Charlotte last night. They have an off day, and then they have to come home and play Sacramento tomorrow, and then they're right back out on the road to play Orlando.
Right. So theoretically, like they're more used to that every other day schedule.
No, by the way, I'm not disagreeing at all with what you're saying. I'm just trying to present some type of counter argument, at least a little bit.
I just think 2 days off for every game is too much. It slows down the momentum of the series.
I do like that, like in between games 6 and 7. No, do not start 6-7 jokes. But I do like that. Damn it! Why did I say anything? But I do like that there's a little more time between game 6 and game 7 because it's a game 7. You want to build up to it. Because, last year was the first time we had seen a game 7 in the NBA Finals since 2016, as I said in the intro. So that would be my one true counter argument is if you get all the way to a game 7, I would want like 2 days off so that you can put the best game you can when it's for all the marbles. Like winner takes all.
Here's what I'll say. I think more Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday games are better. Starting game 1 on a Wednesday is a little risky. I would have preferred it to be on a Friday or a Saturday, like they did with the World Series this year.
Yes. By the
Remember,
way,
back in the day, the World Series used to start on like Friday or Saturday, or excuse me, Tuesday or Wednesday, and it ended on a Tuesday or Wednesday. They shifted that the last few years.
Wasn't game 7 of the 2016 World Series on a weekend?
On Wednesday night.
Huh.
Game 4 was Saturday, game 5 was Sunday, game 6 Tuesday, game 7 Wednesday.
I feel like I should know that as a Cubs fan.
Wednesday, November 2nd.
Yeah. God, the fact that was 10 years ago is
and it bled into Thursday morning.
Yes. I think game 7 this year was what? On a week? The game 7 this year was on a weekend, wasn't it?
Game 7 for both 2016 and 2025 for the NBA was on a Sunday.
No,
for ours, it was Father's Day.
Okay. I was talking about the World Series.
Oh, World Series this year for Game 7 was a Saturday night.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I would me personally, again, I would prefer Game 7 to be on a Sunday because that's when I'm used to, like, being the most charged up. I
The
think that,
argument is you get more viewership on a Saturday night. People don't have to go to work on Sunday.
yeah. And that's as much as I love men's college basketball, I hate that the national championship is on a Monday.
Yeah, I mean, college, it should have been on Friday night. There was nothing on Friday night.
Yeah. I get that you want to do the Final Four on Saturday, and then obviously you give them a day off. But, like, why not do the Final Four on Friday, then have a day off on Saturday, and then do the national championship on Sunday?
Well, again, they do a day off in between the Final Four and the national championship. Why can't the NBA do a day off in between every finals game?
Yeah. I'm not totally disagreeing with what you're saying.
So, but Adam Silver, and I don't know. I really liked Silver when he first came in, and I really turned on Silver as a commissioner because I think he's giving these players way too much empowerment, and I don't think he even has control of his own league anymore.
It certainly doesn't feel like it.
And I think the NBA has turned into baseball, and ironically, baseball has turned into the NBA when it comes to marketing. They have flipped the marketing of their young stars.
Yeah, and yet Major League Baseball is just letting the Dodgers run the show because, the Cubs go inside. Go. You sure you're all right over there?
Yeah, I'm all right. Go ahead.
Okay, but, like, the Cubs go and sign Alex Bregman, and then what happens? Kyle Tucker goes and signs with the LA Dodgers. So it's like,
well, if they win the World Series again, we'll only have everybody else in Major League Baseball to blame.
Yes. By the way, before we get going, just want to say congratulations to both Andrew Jones and Carlos Beltran, who both got elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2026. They both rightfully deserved it. They were both great center fielders for their time. Of course, Andrew Jones with the Atlanta Braves, another member of that 90s Braves team that just was dominant. And of course, with Beltran, I know him most notably for his time with the New York Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals. But of course, he was also involved in the Houston Astros cheating scandal in 2017. So the fact that he was able to get in fourth ballot does tell me something. I think when Jose Altuve comes on the ballot, he's going to have no problem getting in. Same with George Springer, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman. I think they will all get in. Whether they deserve it or not is a different question. But that's my 2 cents on that.
By this time next week, we will have our Super Bowl decided. We're going to talk about it all on Championship Rings. We'll see you guys next week. And peace.
Quick score update. Cleveland Monsters are currently winning against the Chicago Wolves 2-1. Hopefully they don't